I wrote a script for this, but I kind of lost it. Great. So I think you guys could hear me now, and possibly even see me. So I'm just gonna say a quick prayer. Dear Lord, please be with us as a nation. In Christ Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So yeah, I just wanted to just start off this by saying, what is the concept of speech? I think speech is an important concept, because without speech, we basically don't have any of our other freedoms, any of our the things that we could do to communicate to one another. Because if you don't have speech, the only other thing you could do to really get your point across to somebody is violence. And I don't think anybody likes violence. I don't think anybody is up for that, or is willing to even have that kind of thing. Violence is bad. So what we typically do is that if we want to communicate our ideas to people, we use something called speech. We use something called our words. And I think Facebook is a pretty powerful platform for that, because people are able to speak and able to talk and able to debate ideas. But a lot of times, especially what I see, especially on the left, is that people are not able to communicate their ideas in an effective way. And I don't think they're able to communicate their ideas in an effective way because their arguments are just based on emotion. And I don't think emotion is effective when you are trying to make some sort of argument. If I'm going to make an argument based on something, I have to use my words. But a lot of times people want to not use their words. They just want to. I don't know. I think it's a pretty dangerous and pretty stupid type of thing that is going on out there, where words are something that is not. People don't want to use the words. Let me make this be this. So, hey guys on Facebook, I'm going to try to see if I could get those comments on here, cause it's like I just think that that's horrible. I think that it's just very, very bad for our world if we can't agree on just basic concepts like free speech. Oh look, Brian says it's a spiral downwards like a flushing toilet when freedom of speech is slowly eroded. Our First Amendment was meant to protect all speech, especially hate speech. I disagree with everything you say, but I would give my life for you to say it. And I think that's important, man. And I think that's pretty powerful. Without the idea of speech, then the only other thing that we could really do is violence. And I think that's what you're seeing on the left, is that they're not able to articulate something like, for example, systematic racism. They're not able to articulate it using words, mostly because it doesn't exist. So it's kind of hard to articulate something like an idea like that. So what they got to do instead is that they have to use force. They have to tear down monuments, using force. And these types of actions is a destructive thing, to our society. Look, I'd rather speak up than quietly sit in my corner. That's true. So yeah, so the concept of free speech is something that I think conservatives really like, really value, and for the most part, I think enjoy. I mean, we enjoy that concept of being able to say what you want, and like what was said previously, free speech is something that is there not because if okay so free speech is there because there is speech that people do not like legitimately the government doesn't like it, other people don't like it, people don't like free speech, right? A lot of these freedoms, right? So because people don't like it, they have every choice not to like it, but to then tell you that you can't say a certain word or or say a certain thing, right? They then say that you shouldn't have that, because why? Because they want control, and because they are not able to articulate their ideas. And I think that is definitely a problem. So what caused me to come on at midnight basically and to talk about this is because I was a part of a Facebook group, and in that Facebook group somebody got upset. They got upset that someone had put a particular sign on their window, and because of that, they were pretty upset about this. So they put their post onto a group that is designed for like useless signs or something like that. I found this group years ago, and I thought that it was pretty cool. They had a lot of funny signs on there, and a lot of just stupid types of stuff that people would do with signs, right? And I'm the type of person who is interested in I guess stupid things like that. I think people are generally interesting. But the idea of free speech, I think, is something that is so important. It was even put in the First Amendment because our founders understood that the ability for people to say what they feel, what they want, is essential to a democracy. It's essential to the democracy, because if you can't say something because you feel like you're gonna get banned, or you're gonna get put out, or you're gonna get some sort of social thing or governmental thing put on you, is going to generally limit what you're going to say. People are going to start to self-censor. I remember back in 2016, I came out for Trump pretty early. It was between Trump and Ted Cruz it was between Trump, Ted Cruz, and Ben Carson. I really wanted Ben Carson to win, but he was just too sleepy to actually do it. But people would know that I was for Trump because I would be wearing my Trump hat, and I would, basically be in support of the policy and what he was trying to say. But individuals were coming up to me, and they was like, "Hey, Spencer, you're voting for Trump?" No, they didn't say you're voting for Trump. They was like, "You voted for him?" And I was like, "Yeah." And this is in San Francisco, and they was like, "Yeah, I'm voting for him too." And I was like, "Well, yeah, you should tell somebody about that, besides me, because it's not going to help if you just tell me." But they were like, I can't say it, I can't tell this to anybody else because I want to keep my funding. They wanted to keep their funding. We was all in startups doing the startup thing and all that. And I understood that, hey, if you come out there in support of a particular in this candidate, that you could be banned for that. you could have serious, you could, be, there's consequences for those actions where I think that there shouldn't be. So it's pretty disappointing because free speech is something that I think is essential for a democracy, and that anyone could say. So I'm going to put up on the screen right now what essentially motivated this. So this person right here, Joanna, she put up the sign, in useless, unsuccessful, and unpopular signage. So that's the group that I like to be a part of, because people are funny. And so here's what this is. It says, "Not sure if this is supposed to be a joke since there's a mean frog on it, but someone hung this near my house where my transgender teenager lives." So what does the sign say? It basically says there are only two genders, and it has a MAGA hat on it. So somebody thought that this, I guess, was funny or whatever, and the person was pretty hurt that someone had posted this picture in front of their house. And hold on, trying to, and so it's like, hey, this is so what I said. So I saw that picture, and I said this. I was like, hey, don't worry about it. If you're, transgender, implies that there's only two genders. That was my response to that, was that, hey, if you're transgender, that means that there are two genders. And the idea that there are all of these other genders that exist is something that I haven't seen. I've never seen it or experienced it or know anybody that could have a particular argument for it. So what happened is that a ton of people on Facebook commented under my comment, like about a couple dozen of them, and a lot of them just said admin, like, oh, this is hateful, this is bigotry. What do you mean that there are only two genders? I mean, blah blah blah. I mean, it was within the span of a couple of minutes. So it was a lot. And I'm the type of person totally willing to engage with somebody if they have a different opinion or something. And I think that the LGBTQIAP2 plus crowd, they get really antsy and they get really bothered when somebody goes against their attitude or their disposition or the thing that they want to do. There's male and then there's female. I mean, God made them male and female. I mean, that's pretty simple, and I think that's the way that people understood it for hundreds of thousands of years or tens of thousands of years. And so you got the Pepe the Frog meme with the MAGA hat on it. And then there's only two genders, and I guess someone stuck it on the side of a tree. They put a lot of work into this. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. But that was considered to be hateful, and they put it on there, and they didn't like tear down that poster. But my comment that said, hey, yeah, there are two genders. If you're transgender, what are you transitioning between? It's either male and female or female and male. I mean, that's where the argument is. And so that's why, there's this whole thing about the bathrooms and there's all of that, because people are essentially arguing about this whole, transgender thing. And that's, that's what it is. Hey guys, I see you guys on Twitch. I don't know. This is the first time that this thing is doing on D Live, so I don't know how to engage with you guys there, but I will figure it out in a second. But that's just what it is. And it's particularly sad when you can't when you can't say these things, because if you can't say these things, then how do we expect to go forward as a society if we can't say things like this? I mean, how? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know. And it's a troubling thing, because if you can't say certain words because you are afraid of getting banned, then where does that leave us as a society, as a group, as a people? I don't it's very hard to say. It's very hard to, what are you gonna do? Right? And this is just on a Facebook group, but people have gotten fired for stuff like this. They did a lot of work to make this, but free speech is there, guys, because there are things that people need to say, and people need to say things that is gonna probably offend and hurt another person. It probably is. And I don't think it's the responsibility of the person saying this speech to try to make it to where it won't hurt somebody, but it should be the responsibility of the person who hears the speech to not get hurt by it. I mean, and if they are hurt by it, to try to change that into a conversation that could be productive for them, and that they could try to educate the other person. But when you then go out and you ban other people, then it's you just shut down the conversation. And does that person's mind actually change? No, it doesn't change. It doesn't change at all. What happens is that the ideas simply go underground. That is what happens when you run a Facebook group or any other kind of group like that, and you decide to say, oh, this speech is something that we don't want our people to hear or to think about, so we're just gonna block the person who said the thing and whatever. And what that does is that it leaves an echo chamber full of people that can only understand what they believe. It shuts down communication, and our nation is divided even more. We're just divided. We're just separate. And then these two groups, they just grow, and it doesn't stop, and it just keeps on going. And Facebook, how they're, I guess it's the Facebook groups, right? Because even Facebook themselves will try to ban you, because people try to report it and say that your opinion is hateful. I mean, if I don't hate transgender people. I don't. I just think that there are only two genders, and gender and sex have been related ever since the words were even thought up. And so now this image is going to be spread far and wide for thousands of people to see because somebody decided that they got triggered at this, and that instead of making an argument against me for why this thing is hateful or why the facts here are wrong or why there could be a different way of looking at it, no, they just kicked me off of that group. And I've been on that group for like at least 2-3 years or something like that. So guys, it's a terrible state of our country and of our nation when we can't have discussions like this about LGBTQIAP2+ people. Because where does it end? Right? If we say there's male and female and there's no in between, you could possibly lose your job, man, for saying something like that. But the reason why we have speech is so that people can feel like that they can say things without, retribution. But if we are now living in a world like on Facebook where you could be banned for saying certain things, then Facebook is then becoming a arbiter of truth here, right? There's supposed to be a platform. There's supposed to be something where they don't control or they don't moderate the content on their platform, because under, I think, Section 530 of the Communications Decency Act, they're not responsible for stuff that is posted on their platform, because it's supposed to be a platform. But when that platform isn't true, thanks to these community guidelines and all this other kind of stuff, then you know what happens? Then they should be responsible for the content of their platform. And based on this kind of thing like that, then they should be held liable for it. And Trump should definitely do something about that. Because when people can't interact with people based on their ideas and based on what they are saying and the logical arguments that they are making, then the only other way of doing it is by force. The only other way of handling something like this is by force. And I am afraid that platforms like Facebook are going to make it harder and harder for people to get along and for people to do things together. And that is going to result in a separation that is bad, that is too powerful. And this separation is gonna end up hurting us, and it's gonna end up killing us, and it's gonna end up being very, very, very bad. So I don't want that. There are two genders. I mean, I don't know how you could come up with how you could cut it any other way. But guess what? Somebody saw that and they reached out to me, and I think we're gonna have some sort of conversation about it. But it's sad, and I think Facebook should be held liable for the content on their platform if their platform is not going to be truly free. If their platform is not truly free for all voices and for all opinions, even opinions that I don't like, then that's not freedom. Freedom is being able to be tolerant of other people's ideas. I mean, I think that used to be a liberal, that used to be a fresh idea. But if we can't be tolerant of other people's ideas because they are offensive to us, then that is going to be a problem. It's going to have to be a problem, and it's a problem that we're going to have to try to address. And if we don't address it through the Communication Decency Act, and if we allow people to tear down statues of people that they don't like, and the police just stand by and do nothing about it, then we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. It's going to be a big problem, and it might end up being as big as the Civil War was. And I definitely don't want that to happen again. So I don't know how you guys out there are handling this whole being banned issue and stuff like that, but stay safe out there, guys, because what the left is doing is harmful, and it's destructive, and it's going to make our democracy very, very brittle, where if people can't agree on certain facts because they are just be getting, banned like that, then I don't think we could educate ourselves, and I don't think we can make any progress.